Welcome to The Big Break Show, a podcast where we discuss short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, life, mindset, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Rafa Loza and Jesse Vasquez.
Episode 23 of The Big Break Show. I am Rafa Loza here with my co-host, Mr. Jesse Vasquez.
Bro, can you believe this? Episode 23. I can't even believe it.
Bro, I can't believe we're on episode 23, bro. This is nuts.
I know. Let's say bro like 5 more times. You want to?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, you know what? I'm excited about today's episode. We have Alex Sabio. He is a healthcare professional in he's an actual respiratory therapist. And one of the cool things I like about Alex is he started in this industry a couple years ago, but he actually started back in the early 2000s and went and dealt with all the crash in 2007. So you guys are going to get to hear his story about how he progressed from the long-term rental world, lost a couple properties, and then now is in the short-term space and is killing it. And not only that, but one of the things that I love is that he's teaching other healthcare professionals how to get involved in the short-term rental space to create passive income to eventually have that cushion with their jobs. And, healthcare professionals make a pretty decent amount of money, but leveraging that income into real estate. So I'm pumped to have you guys listen to him. What do you think, Rafa?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited. I know Alex personally. I met him at a networking meetup. And in this episode, we talk about the powers of networking, having the right people around you, right?
Yeah.
Growing out of your niche, getting better and getting uncomfortable, which is awesome. So I'm excited for everybody to listen to it. I think it's going to be a really good episode. And well, I don't think I know because I already heard it. So it's going to be exciting. I lived it. I was a part of the recording, guys. For those of you that don't know, I was a part of the recording of this episode, and it's going to be awesome. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, let us know your comments below. If you don't like it, I apologize, but I think it's great. So leave us a comment, review, star it, whatever you want to do. Thank you. We love you all. And here you go. Alex, what's up, brother, man? Thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Super excited to have you here today to talk about another amazing topic, our small segment we've been having for the past, 2 weeks, Jesse, about short-term rentals.
2 or 3, yeah. Coming right around 2 or 3.
So, Alex, while we get started really quick, thank you again for being here, but can you let everybody know who you are, what you're about, and what you've done in the past and how you transitioned into the investment world?
Rafa, Jesse, thank you for having me on, dude. Really excited to be here. So my name's Alex Sabio. I live here in Southern California. I'm in the medical field. I'm a respiratory therapist by trade. So during COVID, we got hit pretty hard and was extremely busy. But I've been doing that for 20 years now. I started investing in real estate in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, somewhere around there. Was an awful investor. Started buying long-term rentals. Didn't do a really good job. Had a bunch of like negative cash flowing properties. And at a certain point in 2008, I mean, that like recession hit me really hard. I mean, at a certain point I bought one property near a hospital and wasn't very good at it, tried to self-manage it, made every mistake out there. I think my mortgage was $3,200 and I was renting it out for $2,000. That's if they were paying.
Wow.
Right. I don't know what I was thinking, man. I think at the time the builder was paying closing costs and they were gonna upgrade some of the furniture, and I thought that, hey, I could rent it out to residents and doctors, and just didn't happen, man. And like I said, what happened is I was trying to do an appreciation play because at the time properties were jumping like crazy, much like it is today. And I thought maybe I'll keep it for a year, make $100,000 and sell it. And it seemed like when I signed it on the dotted line, man, everyone said, "Oh, Alex signed on the dotted line. Let's just dump this market, man," because the market completely tanked. And so I had all this, I think I was negative cash flowing probably like $2,000 between all my properties every single month. I don't know what I was thinking. And at a certain point, after a couple of years, I was done. I couldn't do it. And like I said, sometimes my tenants weren't paying. I think in 2010, somewhere around there, I had a foreclosure. A couple of years later, had a bankruptcy. And it's a shame because I had all of this knowledge now and all of this experience, and I was going to let it go to waste. And I told myself, you know what? Once I get my feet, back, replenish my funds and get financially stable, I'm going to get back into real estate. But I knew at that point that cash flow had to be king, and I had to focus heavily on cash flow. And so that's really how I eventually landed into short-term rentals, because short-term rentals are heavy into cash flow. So
Yeah, I got a question here for you real quick. So was that did you hit that 2007 bubble? Is that what kind of what really jacked you up? So I have a lot of family members. I know a lot of people personally that went through bankruptcies. It was like I think the average it was like 1 in 4 people in 2007 that owned a home ended up in bankruptcy.
that was me, man. That was me. And, it was one of those things I didn't want to give up. It was an embarrassing thing. I remember I still had an answering machine here. Nobody has phones or answering machines at home anymore, right? And they were calling
My
like
mom
probably,
does.
and with the tape player, right?
Yeah.
That's
And
funny.
so, like, the debt collectors were calling like 20 times a day. I mean, I would have people over and it'd be embarrassing. I would let it go to answering machine and all that. But I needed to go through that because it was difficult. But yeah, I was hurt like pretty bad by that recession. So
Man, that's rough. Yeah, I mean, negative 2000 cash flow. Yeah, we went through something similar. My parents lost their house back then as well. Thank God now we're able to get them their own house, so they're back on their feet and everything, and they're doing really well. But it was tough. I still remember that when I was a kid. I mean, not a kid, but when I was younger. So, okay, Alex. So, how did you get past it, and what made you go, okay, let me try this again. Let me give this another shot.
I did keep like I think three of them, and just over time, I got better tenants. I refinanced those loans. I got better terms, and then I started cash flowing a little bit more, right? And then 2015 or so, everyone has their why, and really the family is the number one reason. But I remember working for this hospital, and I was absolutely miserable at that point. And that really lit a fire under me. And I said, my life has to change. Like things cannot continue the way they're going. I look around and I saw people that were there for 20, 30 years and they were absolutely miserable, had miserable lives, but they were there because they had the benefits, they had the pension and everything. And I said, I can't do this. So I started getting back into real estate. And then what I did is I had some of those homes slowly start to cash flow. Because when I filed for bankruptcy, dude, the banks didn't even want those homes. And I bought a lot of those homes for 130,000, and they were only worth 50,000 at that point. I was like, hey, bank, go ahead and take this, and they're like, no, we don't want that. So I just kept it. But eventually, I started cash flowing a little bit more, and then eventually, I started buying some more like C-class properties in the $60,000-$80,000 range, and they did okay. But I knew, like, when I looked at my lifestyle, I said, this had to change. For me to replace my income, I would need to buy 200 of these long-term rentals, and just wasn't going to happen. And so eventually what I did is I started looking into multifamily, and that was early 2020. And we all know what happened with early 2020. COVID hit, and it became almost impossible to buy an apartment building. And then I had a CPA, her name's Amanda Hahn, and she kind of steered me in the direction with short-term rentals. She said, hey, I know you're looking for nice big tax breaks here, but the one thing is I have a lot of clients investing in short-term rentals. They get a nice tax break, and oh, by the way, the cash flow is a lot better than you're going to see with the apartments. So that's how I eventually got to that point.
Got you. So what was the like switching into the short-term space? Did you manage them yourself? Like what was that whole thing like, because I'm trying to think of like losing something. Because when you get into real estate, like your first intention is like, I'm gonna make money from it. Right. That's what your first thought is. And to have that mentality of like, oh crap, we're losing money right now, and then holding on to that for a couple years, where was the mental shift that like I'm gonna start this all over again? Like what happened to you other than you said you hated your job and you probably had like golden handcuffs where you're getting paid really well. You just hated being there. I've been in that same situation and it's not comfortable at all. So like what was that mind shift? Was it the job that was like too much, or was it just like I'm gonna get back into this? My CPA said so. What was the mental aspect of that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually love my job. I love what I do. My specialty is I work with premature babies. That's very rewarding for me. And I work with pediatrics too. I love doing that. But it really was my boss. I mean, they're just, man. I mean, I'm sure we've all had them,
It usually is always as the bosses. Yeah.
And the thing is, I remember I didn't care. I was a workhorse. You could give me the whole hospital. I'd knock it out. But I felt like someone owned me. And that could not happen in my life. Someone could not have a say in my future. Like they pretty much controlled everything I did. And a lot of it was the scheduling. And they said, you know what, you work when we tell you to. And I had to sit there and take it. And the thing is, everyone there was taking it. And I said, no, I like the buck stops here. It can't happen. So that's really what it was. And then at the time, as far as self-managing, we do self-manage. I was trying to buy an apartment complex in Kentucky, and there was like a population of 5,000 people. It was like $1.2 million, 60 units, and I said, man, we're not going to make any money on this, and we're going to have to rehab it completely. And then at that time, I told myself, if I was going to feel comfortable managing something in Kentucky, full gut rehab, I sure as well better feel comfortable managing a brand new short-term rental, brand new furniture in a place that there's tons of visitors. So that's really where I was able to shift my focus. So.
It's funny how whenever we all think of something, it's this big old thing in our head, but then you downsize it to something that's still a big deal, just not as big of a deal, and it just seems so much easier, right? Like you're talking about what was it, 60 unit complex rehab, and you're like, man, this is huge. But then you go down and you go, well, it's just one short-term rental in a different state. It's not that big. But if you don't come in with that bigger ceiling, and then you would have gone straight to that one short-term rental, you'd probably be like, man, I don't know if I can manage this thing out of state, right? It's funny how that works. So, okay, how many short-term rentals are you at right now?
So right now we're at 5 short-term rentals, and this is just within a year and a half. And then we have 2 more that are under contract that should be completed within the next 3 to 6 months. So that'll put me to 7. And I'm a firm believer, you don't need a bunch of real estate. You could you could be financially free with just a handful of short-term rentals if you wanted to.
You know, it's a big, like, what's the word? It's kind of like, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for here, but it's one of these things where everybody thinks that, oh, I got to be a billionaire, I got to be a millionaire, I got to get to all this and acquire all this money and all this property and all these cars, not knowing that really to get to financial freedom, all you really do is got to replace your actual W-2 job and maybe make an extra couple $1,000 on top of it to live a very luxurious lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
$6,000-7,000 a month is way more than half the population out there, right? There's no need for somebody to go, oh my God, in order for me to be rich and be free, I need to have 100 units and 50 short vacation rentals and 1,000 apartment doors. Nah, man, look, if your lifestyle only requires you to have $4,000 or $5,000 a month, do the math. What's that going to take? Is it 5-6 arbitrage deals? Is it 3-4-5 vacation rental markets? Is it one small, tiny apartment complex? Right? People don't think that way. They think that in order for me to get out of this job and into this next level, I need to do so much, not knowing that it really just takes one little baby step to get to that next point, and you can be done with it all. Right?
Yeah, and it just starts snowballing like crazy. And I remember even when I first started buying homes, you have this like number, like I want all these doors and houses. And then now that I don't even care anymore how many, I would love to have 1 or 2 doors and that's it. That just generate me all that income, you know. But that's the one question people always ask, how many doors do you have? And then like, you know, when we talk about apartments, people are always like, how many doors do you have? You know, and someone will have this crazy number, like 1,000 doors or something like that. And I'm like, well, how much cash flow are you bringing in?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they just have a small percentage into it. So
Yeah. We just had a meetup last weekend. Rafa came down to San Jose, and Tony Lim was there, and this dude has 4,000 doors, 4,000 properties. And he's just like, I don't want to get into short-term rentals. Like, I don't want to be in the hospitality game. I asked him, he's like, I'm too old for that.
Yeah, it's a difference too, though, Jesse. Right? Like it like I always tell people, it depends where you're at in your journey, right? We start in short-term rentals because we're trying to get to this next level. This dude's got 4,000 doors. Like, there's no need for him to backtrack to this point. Like, it would be backtracking for him. He already knows next level stuff. Why go to the small level stuff? I mean, not to say that we're small, but if you put it in the grand scheme of things, he's got an entire system. I mean, you don't get to 4,000 doors without having an entire team of, people funding you, people backing you, management properties, just the amount of contractors he's probably got to have in his group of people is insane. So when you have something to that level, there's really no need for you to go to anything else if you already have it scored away. It's like, for me, why do I have so many arbitrage units? Well, because I have it down so well set up already that it's just plug and play for me, right? Like, Alex, going back to what you were saying too, in the beginning, it was like, oh, I want to get 100 units because I want to make $100,000 a month. I'm at 40 something and I'm already doing pretty well that I don't no longer care to get to that number. Why add more work to my book? I don't want to go out and start searching for more places when I'm doing good, and now I can move on to something bigger and better.
Yeah, I think Rafa too, though, like my mentality with it is, yeah, you got 4,000 units, but it's all about diversification. Like you diversify your portfolio. But I guess some people, I guess that's where I'm at now. I'm staying in my lane. Like I know short-term rentals. That's probably what he's doing. He's been doing this forever. And I think for me, dude, and we've talked about this before, I always try to convince old school investors, like, this is what you could be earning. And they're just like, dude, I don't want any part of that. Or they're like, oh, cool, I want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, but 4,000 units is probably like, can we call it FU money? You know,
Maybe
for real. It is.
sure
No, it is. I know a lot of people at that level already, even just in some of the mastermind groups that I'm in. And it's FU money. They can do what they want whenever they want at any point of their time in life. Like, they don't care. They just don't care. They don't need the other headaches. So anyway, Alex, we're getting sidetracked here, man. So, okay. So I know you have a very specific niche. I know your Facebook group. I'm in it. What do you specifically are you doing right now? Because I know you focus a lot with the medical professionals to try to like get people involved in short-term rentals, right? Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, like I said, like during COVID, and this is before COVID, I saw a lot of people miserable in the hospital. And then COVID hit, it got even worse. And then now you have like the mandates and stuff, like people don't want to do that stuff. But it's crazy because I really enjoy my job. And when I'm there, everyone can see it, and then they see that I've pretty much replaced my W-2 income with just a handful of short-term rentals. And they're wondering, what the hell am I doing here? Like every day I'm at work, they're like, have you retired yet? When's the day you're leaving? And I'm like, well, I still enjoy doing it. And so people came to me and they wanted to learn what I was doing. And I was more than happy to tell them, And it's crazy because I was telling people like when I first started, and they're like, yeah, whatever, dude, you're investing in where? Like Tennessee, I don't even know where Tennessee is. And then all of a sudden they started seeing like what I was doing. And, I was pretty active on social media. I was buying another house and another house and another house. And they're like, this guy must be doing something right. And really, I created a Facebook group because I saw a lot of people that were miserable in the medical community, and I wanted to help them. And I don't charge people anything. All I do is I pretty much tell them all my mistakes. That's really what I do. And then I share all my contacts. I'm an open book. I'm like, here, this is the lenders that I use. These are the agents that I use. You guys want to use them? More power to you. So I started that to really free up my time too, because I love talking real estate. I could talk real estate all day. I do these podcasts all the time. But at a certain point, I was talking to 4 or 5 investors every single day, and I couldn't stop talking. It'd be like an hour and a half, 2-hour conversation. And I said, let me just start this Facebook group. And then it just kind of grew up, blew up. So, but yeah, anybody who's in the medical field that's wanting to invest in real estate, I put a bunch of content out there for short-term rentals. My partner, she invests in multifamily. So that's kind of her content. So we're trying to bring those two groups together. And so anyone in the medical field, if you're thinking about joining real estate, join my Facebook group. It's called Healthcare Professionals in Investing in Real Estate.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think, when I worked in healthcare too, I started actually working in the, the like CPAPs, BiPAPs. You probably know all about that stuff. And the rest, I worked respiratory therapist at first, but a lot of those guys were like, they had income because those are good, stable jobs. But they just didn't know where to put it. They just didn't know how to do that. And I think it's cool that you're an advocate for the healthcare workers in that sense, to really kind of bring everybody together and say, hey, this is what I've done. Here's how I'm bringing it. I know that you work with Savannah too. And I had you guys, or I was actually on your guys' podcast or, YouTube. And I get messages from people there all the time. They're asking questions, or they just randomly watch it online. So that's cool that you're educating and teaching people how to do it. And if for free, you know what I mean? That's awesome. So what's your plans right now? So like you got 5 short-term rentals. I just saw that on Instagram you were doing another deal. Like, can you kind of walk us through what that deal is going on? And Rafa, do you want to go somewhere else with this, or do you want to talk about?
No, let's talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the deal you just had. That you just, I think you just finalized one recently, right?
No, we're looking. I do have a lot of people that want to invest with me because I think there's been a lot of people, like I was trying to get into multifamily, and I have a lot of people that, that I networked with, and the returns that we were getting with short-term rentals blew away multifamily. It was just a little bit more work, and so I do have some people that want to invest with me. And so we've been looking at different properties for a few other investors. But eventually what I like to do, and I don't even need to do it because like I said, we're pretty much financially free with 5 short-term rentals, and then eventually we'll have 7 short-term rentals, and it'll blow that out of the water. But like really, I just want to do something cool and hang out with some people and just have a different purpose. That's kind of why I started the healthcare professionals investing in real estate group, and then help others invest, make the same amount of return. But we're also looking into buying motels right now. And then, like I said, I was trying to get into apartments before, and that's still kind of a passion of mine. I still want to get one of those. It's more of a bucket list thing for me too. Um, but yeah, I'd like to get. That's really the goal this year, to get a motel. And here's a side note: my great aunt actually owned a motel on the Las Vegas Strip, kind of where the Welcome to Las Vegas sign is. And then she got bought out by the airport and made a killing. Yeah, she bought it in the 70s and wound up selling to the airport like in the early 2000s. So
That's funny. I was about to say, isn't that where the airport's at?
yeah, right.
So you're a hotelier at heart, man. It's in your family blood. It's in the genetics.
Well, it's crazy because like so my grandparents had 12 kids and nobody got into real estate, like none of them. And my grandparents did. They started buying real estate in LA in the early 70s and made some, they bought some boarding care facilities in the 80s and 90s and made good money, but no one else caught the real estate bug. It's kind of crazy. And I mean, I'm pretty much the only one. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that any real estate's fantastic. I mean, hotels when COVID first hit, I remember because Ralph and I met on Clubhouse, and a lot of people were talking about picking up hotels because the hotel industry was really damaged, right, with COVID. So people were jumping into it, and I haven't really heard much
I
about
feel
it
like it
since.
still is. No, dude. Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on who you're talking to about it too, because the people that I'm talking to about it right now they're picking up as a fire sale right now. They're super, super cheap right now. Even right now, they're still super cheap. So that's why, I mean, prior to this, we were just talking briefly about that, right, Alex, about motels and hotels and stuff like that. I mean, I want to touch on that for a bit because I am super curious about it and I'd love to pick your brain on your thoughts behind it.
yeah, I think when you look at growth, like what are we going to do? Are we just going to keep buying short-term rentals? And now the word is out, right? I mean, Bigger Pockets talks about it left and right. There's more books and people on social media. And then when you look at different asset classes, where are you going to invest in? Short-term rentals blow all of those out of the water because there's so much cash flow. But the thing is, when I'm trying to put offers in on these homes, I'm bidding against everybody. I mean, we're bidding each other up, and it's a hot
Yeah.
market right now. Everyone has capital, and so like the cost of these short-term rental single-family homes are going through the roof. But the thing is, nobody's looking to buy a motel. Nobody's looking to buy a hotel, and the vast majority of those motels are owned by mom and pops. And they've been ran for 20, 30 years. They haven't been updated. A lot of them we're looking at, they have like VCRs still. I mean, and none of them are on Airbnb. None of them are on Airbnb. A lot of them are just hoping for people to just walk in off the side of the road. And so there's this huge, huge opportunity where you could buy an ugly motel and fix it up and just modernize it, put it on Airbnb, put it on Verbo, put it on all of those other sites like Expedia, and then create an experience like you have a huge building, and then you could create like a nice like outdoor experience for all of
Yeah.
your guests. So there's different avenues there. Like it doesn't have to be a standard motel where you think about like it's, I don't know, like a Best Western or something like that, where it's just just a studio with a bed and a refrigerator. But there's different motels. Like we looked at one in Durango, Colorado, and there was I don't know how many units, but there was probably like 32 different cabins on that, and it was a motel. And then there was land in the back. We could have pitched tents or had an experience. So those are the deals that we're looking at acquiring. So
That's cool. So you're looking for value add and experience add as well, right? I saw a really cool, it used to be a motel. It converted into a boutique hotel, and it was, I can't remember the name, but it was in a city in Texas. And it's what gave me the idea maybe about a year and a half ago to actually start looking into these things. I just never got around to it, but it was a little dumpy spot, and they converted and they added a bunch of color and murals and walls, and then they put a little like patio outdoor bar dining area right in the center of it. And then they built a little tiny pool on the side, just more of like a hey, hang out and dip your feet, because you can't even swim in it. It's more of like a day pool, kind of like let's have a little party outside. And man, their occupancy is 100% all throughout the year, and it's one of the most popular spots in that town. I follow them on Instagram actually, and they have some
Yeah, there's
awesome stuff.
June Motel. The girls did that too. They were on Netflix. June Motel. They picked up some
yeah.
random motel. I don't even remember where it's at.
I've never seen that. What's it called?
It's called the June Motel. Watch it. You'll
Okay.
actually really like it. So it's these
Sweet.
two girls that were into interior design, and they decided to like get into to get into a hotel. Like they never had anything like that before. And it's like it takes you through the entire process of starting off, the troubles they ran into, and they're just interior designers. They're not like, contractors or anything. So check it out. It's actually a really, really good show. It's on Netflix, right, Alex? I think it's Netflix.
Yep. Yeah, it's on
Yeah, I'm gonna
Netflix.
check it out. That's cool. Yeah, Alex, you said something interesting too, because I've been in short-term rentals for 5 years, and when I started, it was like, oh, short-term rentals, whatever, right? It was funny. You've brought up 2 points actually. When I started doing it, everybody was like, oh, I tell everybody about it. I would talk to everybody about it, and everybody be like, yeah, whatever, dude, whatever. And now, like, I got everybody around me asking how they can get started in it, right? Because it's like the hot, new, super shiny object that now it's out. The word is out. And like the point you brought up, right? It's starting to become very popular. It's only a matter of time before it's a norm. It's back to a norm, right? It's like when the bird came out and like when fix and flips were out. Like now short-term rentals are out and everybody wants to jump into short-term rentals. Every city's applying ordinances. They're applying laws. Everybody's outbidding each other for short-term rentals. Everybody's trying to arbitrage everything, So I like the idea of using the strategy with something that was already there and combining it, right? Like a motel that's literally, they rely on people to drive through the city to book. But if you come in with a little bit of money, convert it into like a studio style, it's on its own, do self check-in, add some value to the outside, throw it up on Airbnb, on Expedia, right? And now you go from this undervalued, underperforming asset to something that's just generating a killing because you've combined two things, a motel and short-term rentals together, right? Now you're taking advantage of the entire network of short-term rentals out there, all those marketing platforms, right? The Airbnbs, the Verbos, everything else on top of it. And I kind of feel like that's where it should kind of be going. So,
And you don't have to worry about laws either, Rafa. Like
yeah,
laws don't count when you have a motel. Like there's no laws. You're
Right.
paying TOT taxes. You're paying I don't even know what other taxes come along with it, but I'm sure there's a hotel tax. But still, like you don't have to worry about that.
It's already a short-term rental.
Mhm.
And then look at your competition. Your competition is not very stiff at all. Like I said, if you just kind of go in the city and then try to just walk and or do a Google search and see all of the other motels, and then you look at the Google reviews of those motels, they all suck. I mean, so
Now that I'm thinking about it right now, and I never thought about Rafa like this before, or anybody that owns a bunch of units. Like, dude, you're basically like a hotelier. You have fucking entire blocks. Excuse my language. I guess I can cuss. It's my show or our show, right? um, so like you basically have a mini motel, like probably 3 or 4 of them already.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, of course. That's why. So I was like, wait, who are you talking to right now? Yeah. No,
You,
listen,
man.
here's my thing. This is why I want to get into small multifamily, right? Number one, I don't have to compete with the big guys, right? Like the Tony Lynn's and Tim Brotz's and all these other famous, Grant Cardone's out there where they're out buying the 100, 200, 300 unit complexes, right? I can focus on the small 15, 20 units that nobody wants to touch because it's not the
Right.
upside that they're looking for. And they're still being controlled by mom and pops, right? And I can come in and add value to them and essentially convert it into a baby hotel, even though they're still short-term rentals, because we can still go out to residential and convert it to mid-term rentals with like certain types. It's not an actual motel. It's an entire 1-bedroom apartment, 2-bedroom apartment. But if I wanted to, yeah, we can always convert it into a hotel. It just, it comes down to zoning and stuff like that. But essentially what I have, like my eight units, a hotel, it's a hotel. It's what it is. Let's just call it that, because all 8 units are short-term rentals. People can come in and go on every single day, right? Now, if you come in and you actually buy the motel and then you just convert it, I've seen a conversion too where they bought a motel and they actually turned it into apartment complexes, right? So they did the opposite, but then they turned it into a short-term rental anyway. So I was like, it's the same thing here. You know what I mean? But the revenue went, it shot up, right? So I forget people are listening to us. I'm over here doing hand signals. But yeah, it shot up, right? So the revenue went through the roof. The value of the property went through the roof. And now they're making a ton of money off of a one tiny little 12-unit motel.
that's the money right there, right? Like everybody does, like people were talking about burrs, but really you don't even, like, if you take a multifamily and you could find a way to convert it into short-term rental just by doing that shift, right? Just by changing that business model, going from long-term rental into short-term rental, all of a sudden the value of your property has just skyrocketed just because the amount of revenue that's coming in from that multifamily property has shot up. Sometimes, I've seen some operators go from 3 to 4 to 5x their net operating income, and if you divide that by the cap rate, you're seeing some people that bought a small multifamily from 2 million go all the way up to $10 million just by just making that business shift. So.
That's one of the things I was talking to. I've met this mastermind and I'm talking to all these other guys about it. And they're like, well, why would you want to do that? And I'm like, well, because if I buy a building, I can put the value behind it that I want to put behind it. Whether I use the income of the short-term rental, which is hard to find a lender, of course, right? It's still being adopted within lenders and stuff like that. But my arbitrage business can come in and arbitrage it from my holding company that's actually owning the asset. I can put the rent level that I want. So even if it's just a couple $100 on top, the rate of that $1 million complex already went to 1.3, 1.4, 2 mil because I'm setting the rents, right, that I want them to be at. So when you do the numbers, it shoots the value up. And on top of that, my arbitrage company, the leasing company, is making that extra short-term rental money on top of it. So I get the best of both worlds, right? I get the cash flow on this side, and I get the wealth value on this side because it's generating so much more revenue and rent. But again, like I said, it goes back to like lenders, and there's like who's still adopting. It's still so early that a lot of people are like, we don't want to touch it yet. We don't understand it yet. We don't know how to underwrite it yet. But I feel like it's coming anyway.
It's coming.
I just talked to Jason, dude. They have a new short-term rental thing. There's like I've been researching because I'm trying to pick up another property right now, and I've never done it before. So there's agencies now that are finally starting to be progressive, that are thinking different, that are looking at revenues in a different way. And they have to. I've always talked in Alex, when I was on your thing, I talked about short-term rentals being their own asset class. Like they will become their own asset class. It is becoming it now. So they have to be able to underwrite these things. And I think that that's where this model is going. This is where it's heading. It's got to. And, the circle that I'm running into, they're bringing deals to the table and companies that are actually starting to forward think and say, okay, cool. Let's take it on. Let's look at what the rent roll is. Let's look at how long it's been operating already, or here's the projections. Here's what AirDNA says, or even doing a little bit more. So So I'm excited about that, man, because I think there's a lot of wiggle room for us to, find deals and have somebody that can back us in doing those.
Agreed.
It's going to be a while, but like for those large multifamilies, I know of a couple lenders that are actually already doing it anyway. So I'm excited to see where it goes because that's the direction where I'm going right now. It was funny because I just heard this he used to be an old mentor of mine, kind of influencer dude, and I won't say his name, but he was talking crap about short-term rentals for the longest time because he's over here telling because he's got a bunch of mentees and like people who are signed up to his training courses. And he's telling everybody that nobody should be investing in short-term rentals because it's not about cash. It's about building wealth. And they need to be looking out for only wholesale deals and only fix and flips and the difference is that he's telling everybody to hold, right? Don't flip the property, hold the property, but buy it at a discount property. And I'm thinking like, dude, you're so old school. Like that's so old school. You're teaching all these new kids to investments from 20, 30 years ago. Like we're in a new era now. Right? Why can't they combine all of these new things together where it's, hey, go find a discounted property, add some value to it, but hold it and convert it into something that's going to generate you more revenue. Take the best of both worlds. I don't understand. And he's over here like, oh, I don't want to be in the hospitality business. And like literally just like shitting on the entire short-term rental business is what he was doing. And I'm like, I listened to the entire, it was like a 2-minute video on a podcast that he was doing. And I'm like, man, dude, like, I understand that like, you focus down your avenue, you're talking about your specific niche, but like you have millions of people listening to you right now that look up to you thinking, oh yeah, what this guy says is what goes. Yet you're telling everybody to stay away from something that can essentially really change their life in such a short amount of time.
Right.
I was like, I was blown away by, I was like, I literally was upset and I swiped away because I couldn't deal with it. And it goes back to this whole thing, right? The adaptation of the market coming into short-term rentals right now is so new. It's not for anybody to speak, right? About what they should be doing, where it's going to go, and whatever works for you specifically is what you should focus on doing. Arbitrage works for me, so why stick with it? I'm now moving to purchasing, right? Purchasing vacation rentals, Alex, is for you, right? Jesse, you buy for midterm rental markets in very specific city locations. It's for everybody. Now we're talking about these motels. how we can add value to them instead of buying them at a discount, throw them a little bit of paint on them and leaving them the way they are instead of wanting to convert into something better. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And really, the old ways of doing things aren't going to work anymore. I mean, maybe they will, but the thing is, you're going to fall way behind versus everyone else that had adapted and have changed.
The old principles work.
Yeah. People buying mutual funds. If they're not wanting to buy stocks, they're buying mutual funds. And then you got like the new generation saying, "Hey, I'm buying crypto over here."
NFTs.
Right, NFTs and all that. So it's either you change your ways or you get left behind. And as far as the old ways, if you look at it, I started investing a little over a year and a half ago. We look at the amount of equity we have. We have over $2 million in equity from our short-term rentals. I mean, people work in hospitals all their lives so that they're like, oh man, I want to get that $1 million pension. You know, they'll work there 30 years. Here I was able to accomplish it within a year and a half.
Dude, yeah, that's insane. Yeah, it's funny. You work for 30 years to get this $1 million pension, but you can go and buy this one amazing property worth millions of dollars that gets paid off by the time you're done working, and there it is. You sell that off and you live for the rest of your life. And it took you
Right.
what you said 1 year. It's insane, man. That's
Yeah,
insane.
right.
You know what that goes down to, man? It goes down to the mentality that you have. It goes down to the people that you have around you. And you have to start thinking about what you're doing almost like a game. Like almost like it's like part of this, like, and you have to become obsessed with it, dude. Like that's what I've seen really
Yes.
successful people do is they get really hyper obsessed about certain things. And if they start looking at money almost like a game, and that's where these things happen, like the cash flow game. What's that game, Rafa? That cash flow 101. Yeah, there you go. So like if you start thinking about things in that concept, like you'll get cash flow. You just have to figure out the certain things. And I think most Americans, most people don't have that mindset. They don't have that. And there's a very small amount of percentage of people that do. And they're not necessarily going to tell you exactly how to do it, but you are around them and they'll give you little hints, little drops of what they're doing. And you have to start, digging deeper and figuring things out. And I think that's what's cool about being and networking with other individuals. Like going back to what I was talking about earlier. And I like how this conversation is kind of casual right now. I like it. Being around Tony Lim has 4,000 units. So you just start picking up little things from these people and you start adapting them. You start going on YouTube, finding out more things about these things and you grow. But yeah, man. So Alex, that's awesome. Like, how did you, all your properties are in the Smokies, right? Or are they, I think you have Texas and Smokies. Is that where you're at?
We have 2 in the Smokies that are going, and then we have 2 more that are being built in the Smokies. But we have 3 in Gulf Shores, Alabama. So Gulf Shores is kind of weird for me. It's number one, like I said, the old ways aren't working anymore. If you told me I'd be in Tennessee or Alabama 2 years ago, I'd tell you you're nuts. There's no way I couldn't even locate them on the map. But the thing is, you have to keep an open mind. I think people that don't move forward always focus in on the negatives. They always say, but what if? But what if there's a tornado? But what if, the guest burns it down? But what if they have a party and all of that? But I chose to focus in on all the positives. And I saw so many people that were making money in those markets. And I said, if they're able to do it, I can figure that out too, And so we have 3 in Gulf Shores. And really that was kind of like a bucket list thing for me. Growing up where I came from, I always wanted something on the beach. I was like, dude, that'd be amazing to own something on the beach. And I always told myself, I don't even care what beach it is. I just want to get there. And then I saw the opportunity to get into Gulf Shores and new investors that were there making a good return. And I said, okay. And this opportunity presented itself. This house sat in the market for 45 days because it had an old rickety elevator that nobody wanted to touch. And I went in there and that was the first Gulf Shores property that I bought, like a 3-minute walk to the beach. So
wait a second. So this thing has an elevator?
Okay. So it had an elevator. Okay, it had an outdoor elevator, and then I was installing a kitchen, and then the appliance company used the elevator and broke it.
Oh,
And
man.
so I had to remove it. It
Oh,
cost me
come on.
$800 to remove it. I know. And it was a brand new elevator too.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked, because I know how expensive they are and how expensive they are to fit. Maintenance on them is just
Maintain, yeah.
stupid expensive. So I was like, whoa, okay, that's cool. Man, that sucks. So that would have been fun. How big is it?
It was an outdoor elevator. It was huge. I mean, but in the end, I was gonna block it off because I didn't like the liability because I knew guests was gonna mess it up and chop off an arm or something like that. And I just had a lock on it, and I said I'm just gonna use it for when Anyway, it wound up working out good for me because in the end I removed it and wound up upgrading the backyard, and it looks so much better because of it.
Nice. Is that the new property that you posted on Instagram just a couple of weeks ago?
Probably, yeah. It's a yellow and blue house. So
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's a beautiful property, man. That's cool.
So what is your like you went to the Gulf Shores because you just your friends were there? Or, like how did you run numbers on that for like anybody new listening right now? Like what does your number process look like? How do you evaluate properties? Like what does that look
y-
like?
yeah, it's all a people business for me and for all the people looking to get into real estate or whatever it is. You need more friends. Really, just get more friends, network, and just talk to a bunch of people. And like I said, I had enough people in the Gulf Shores that were making good money there, and I said I'm just going to follow them. And really, what happened was I was trying to buy properties in the Smokies, and then that market just we're getting outbid left and right. People were paying $100,000 over asking, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. And so I partnered with my brother and I said, hey, he didn't have that much money. And I said, let's look in this market and let's start there. So that's really the process that worked out. Really difficult properties to analyze because the thing is, the vast majority of the properties are under property management. And a lot of the properties under property management are underperforming. So for you to evaluate how much you could make as a self-managing a short-term rental operator, you had to have those relationships with other investors in the market. Say, hey, oh, you have a 4-bedroom that's generating 120,000. This is, or 150,000, whatever it is, and they would share me their listing. And I said, okay, I'm going to buy something very similar, and my numbers are going to come out to this. But if you look at data on AirDNA or any of those other websites, it's going to be really difficult because, like I said, sometimes they were under property management or a lot of owners were using it themselves, like in the peak season. So it was really difficult. So
Got you. So can you walk us through that, like one of your deals there? Can you talk about numbers and stuff? Are you okay with that? Kind of
yeah,
break
sure.
down what numbers look like and what you're earning, and just for one of those places out there.
So I bought one for $629,000 as a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2,500 square feet, like 3 stories. That one I wound up having, it was a 1031 exchange for one of those crappy homes that the banks didn't want.
Yeah.
Eventually, over time, it went up in value. And then I had less, I think I owed like $30,000 or something like that and sold it for 120. And so I sold that and used that as a down payment because those homes were just like making me $200-300 a month. And I said, why do I have all of this equity just sitting here making me $200-300 a month when I could use it into a short-term rental that's going to generate a minimum $3,000 to $5,000 a month? And so we bought one for $629,000. We put 15% down, so I think I owe like, I don't know, $500,000 on the property. I wound up having to fix it up because initially when I looked at it, I said I'll just start renting it out, but they just weren't to my standards. When I looked at it, I mean, he had a tape player in every single room. He had the ADT alarm, and you could tell he bought everything from Walmart. It had like the Walmart brand and everything. And I said, this property is probably going to generate me $60,000 a year if I rent it out as is. Not only that, it's going to be a pain in the butt to manage because I'm just going to have to keep replacing everything. So I said, you know what? Let me just go all out. So we spent about $50,000 renovating it. So all in like 679. That probably easily worth 850 now. Um, and we think we're going to generate about $130,000 gross revenue a year on that conservatively. My interior designer thinks it's going to make 180. I don't know. During this, the thing is, the summer seasons, the beach markets are all about summer seasons, right? And
Right.
so your season is shortened. Like you're talking like a 4 or 5 month period where you're really generating most of your revenue. You'll have some of spring break, you'll have Thanksgiving, and you'll have some of Christmas. But a vast majority of it is going to come during the summertime. So,
It's similar to out here, like in the Big Bear market. It's the winter time that makes all the money, right?
right.
You can
Mhm.
generate in 3 months. You can generate $60,000-$70,000, which is crazy. So that's cool. I want to keep going back to this motel thing, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, let's talk
Let's do it.
about what deals you got in the pipeline here, and like how that looks for you, and like where you're trying to go with that. Because, for example, we can talk about short-term rentals and the cabins, and I want to transition to it only because like we talk about this stuff on the show all the time, right? But we don't talk about a specific thing like a motel purchase, right? And we all want to try to grow and get to a different level of investing. What does that look like for you, and where are you trying to go with this? Like, what's your ultimate goal with that?
So I don't want it to be as cookie cutter as a standard motel that we think about, like, Super 8 or whatever those other ones where there's studio, motels. I want it to be a unique experience. So Really, we're looking all over the country. We were just analyzing properties in Durango, Colorado. We were looking in Corpus Christi, Texas. So we talked to different motel. Like I said, you need more friends. So we talked to a motel owner in Washington. He purchased around the same time I did in August of 2020. And he bought his for $770,000, and it's a 10-unit motel. He spent about $18,000 on each one, renovating it. So all in, probably 900,000 or something like that. That thing cranks out about $580,000 a year over 12 months, right? Now, people might think it's a little bit more work, but they're all on a 10 unit. They're all on Airbnb, and he self manages them all the same exact way that we all manage our short term rentals. And so a lot of motels, they'll have like a front desk person, and each city will be different in the sense that they'll have different laws. Like you might need to have someone there overnight, but here he eliminated that overnight person and has cleaners and handyman just like we do. So it is a little bit more work, but the thing is, it's cool. It's all in that one location versus me. It's all in different states. Um, but the amount of revenue that he's generating is way more than any other short-term rental that I'm looking at. I mean, it's like 3, 4, 5 times more than any short-term rental. So those are the kind of deals we're looking at.
Is that like a medium price range, you would say, or is this also very market specific? I don't know how it is with motels. Like, is it different per market, or is it just like a medium price range?
Yeah, it's extremely market specific. You could definitely buy a motel I have a good friend that just bought one for $385,000, right? And the thing is,
Wow.
we're buying homes.
Where's that at?
And it was a 13 unit I'll have to get back to you. I think it's in Texas.
Texas.
Yeah, and so she has like a designer thumb, and so she's gonna fix that thing up really nice because she owns short-term rentals and understands marketing and making something Instagrammable. But she's putting in, I think, $500,000 to fix it up. The cool thing is she's
Wow.
financing that fixing up part, right? Like
Oh,
I think
cool.
15% of that 500,000, and not only that, for the 385,000 she put 15% down. And that thing, we think it's going to generate over 300,000 a year,
Wow,
right?
man.
Right. And so a lot of us today are still buying in the Smokies $900,000, and we're like, hey, it might generate you $100,000 a year or $120,000 a year. So the motel thing does generate so much income, but it's going to be more work. There's always this spectrum, right? The more work you put into it, the more money you're gonna make. It never really works out where, hey, I want to put in hardly any work and I'm going to make the most amount of money. That doesn't work that way,
Always,
man.
yeah.
Right? So the thing is, the motel is going to be a little bit more work than the regular short-term rental, but the reward is a lot more, right? And purchasing them will be a little bit more difficult. Like the due diligence period is really tough. Sometimes you're going to have to walk away from the deal, right? And put up like a large amount of earnest money. But the thing is, you're inspecting 13 units or 48 units, however many it is. So.
You know what it is, Alex? It's the fear of purchasing something so large. I think people
Right.
are like, well, if I just buy one house, I got to just buy one house and manage one house, and I'm going to make this much money. But then they think about hotels or motels, and they think this gigantic building with nothing but issues, right?
Yeah, but you don't have to go at it alone. And a lot of the multifamily people will tell you that and it's extremely rare that one person owns like this huge apartment complex. A lot of times it's partnering up with different people. So that's what I want to do. I just want to partner up with a bunch of cool people, hang out and have a good time and make some money along the way. So.
Can we talk about how your partnership deals look? Like, how do you structure those deals?
So far, we're still looking at the motel, whether people want to, because I know a lot of like doctors or medical professionals that just want to invest passively in those deals, and I think I could give them a good return. As far as my partnership, like I have one partnership right now, and it's my brother. Like the partnerships have to really mean something to me to move forward. Like it has to have some value. Like I really like this person, and I want them to move forward. And my brother never owned any real estate. He didn't even know what a mortgage was or anything, and I was sick and tired of seeing him like get left behind. And I said, "Let's buy something together. I'm going to show you everything, top to bottom." And it took away a lot of that fear. Like he used my contractor, he used my interior designer. and I helped him with all of the automation tools. So that took a lot of the fear away from him. But with him, it's really 50-50 right now. We're just splitting it, and it's not about money with him as much as it is taking someone along and teaching them the business. I don't even care if I make any money off of it, tell you the truth. So
That's cool. Yeah, I think that's a really, really big deal because knowing who you go into bed with is key in any type of successful business as well, right? You can go into a really bad partnership with someone that you think you're cool with, and then it just ends up biting you in the butt, and you end up
right.
it ends up bad for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ruin the relationship. You end up in an argument. Could even go as far as a court battle, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not fun for anyone. Just stress that nobody needs to put up with. I always tell everybody first know 100% who you're going into partnerships with. I don't partner with anybody unless I 100% know I can vibe with them the way I want to vibe with them, the way I know that we can click together, because you need to be in synchronization and do things together. It's so, so important. Like I always stress this so much. Like I get people all the time go, hey, you want a partner? And I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
no
Yeah.
offense, but no, I don't, because I don't partner
Yeah.
with anybody. I'd rather go at this myself. Unless you want to be a passive investor, it's a different story, right? You can make you a limited partner, but if you want to be like a GP or a general partner and someone who has controlling and has say over what I do and how I invest, then we better be like on the same page about everything, right?
Right.
One of the biggest things is set the expectation up front. Anytime someone tells me, hey, I got this money to give you, okay, well, if you're going to give me this money or you want to partner up on this, know that it's going to be this, and this, and you don't get to say this, and this, because later on you get this whole like, well, I want you to do this or I want you to do that. And it's like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
back it up a little bit.
Right.
That's not where we're at.
Right.
So that's a big deal. Cool, man. Alex, we're getting to the top of the hour. So before we do anything else, I want to get to our segment here where we ask everybody the same two questions every show. Being that this is the big break show, right? We talk about what was your big break, whether it was in life, business, entrepreneurship, real estate, whatever it is. Like what got you that one defining moment that made you either change your mindset or do something different to get you to this level where you're at today?
Well, I probably had a lot of and like I said, I've made a lot of mistakes in life and with real estate, but really my big break was my first short-term rental. And I bought that, I put an offer in July of 2020. And if you remember how we all felt in July 2020, we didn't know whether the economy was gonna, crash and burn. I remember having friends selling their homes thinking, oh, I'm gonna sell and I'm gonna wait for the crash, and look at where they are now. And I remember putting like almost every dollar I had. I think we came out of pocket $110,000 in to buy our first short-term rental, and I think I had $115,000 total to my name, right? And that's after working 2-3 years overtime, and then tapping into some equity from my personal home, and then from one of my rental properties. And then we didn't know if we were going to fall off the side of the cliff. And my daughter's 19 now. And at the time, I think she's 17. And I'm like, yo, she's about to go to college soon. And this girl's smart as hell. And I'm going to have a $30,000 a year bill. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to break it to her. Like, hey, dad was an idiot and bought a home in Tennessee and spent all our money, right? But the thing is, I put my faith into that. I ran the numbers. It made sense. And that really was my big break, because I remember posting it to Airbnb 2 weeks after we closed in August 13th. That's when our first guest checked in. And really the first guest should have checked in August 20th, because I didn't even have the linens yet. Like I messed up the whole process, right? I had to call my cleaner like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I know you're supposed to clean next week, but I need some sheets on there now because a guest is checking in tomorrow. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna get it. But the big break was that guest booked $500 a night times 4. My mortgage payment was $2,600. And I said, holy crap, there's something to this.
Yeah.
And that's when we knew, like, we had something. We had an ATM machine, right? And that's completely changed everything. Once you get an ATM machine, what do you want? You want as many of those damn ATM machines as you can. So that completely flipped it to where at a certain point we were trying to pay down homes. And at that point, we didn't care about paying down homes anymore, because I needed more ATM machines. Because at that point, the more ATM machines I could get that print money, I could easily pay down whatever home I had.
Yeah.
So,
Printing press. It's why I open so many arbitrage units, because I know I'm literally printing cash.
right.
It's get that money back so fast. And then generally after that, boom, this. So
Yeah.
cool.
You know what I love about that, Alex? Your risk tolerance. And I think that a lot of times
Yes.
when we look at the people that have made crazy moves during uncertain times or diversity, those people either lose everything or that's where their momentum builds. Like during March of, I think I told the story to you guys in March. 2020, I refinanced my home. COVID hit, and I put all that money in the stock market because the stock market went crashed like
Yeah.
literally overnight. You guys remember that March 18th?
Hmm.
That's when the
Yep.
stock
Yeah, I
market went
remember.
boom, slammed. And I remember my family was like, "Dude, you're an idiot. Why would you do something like that?"
Yeah.
And guess what that did to me 2 years later? Like I was able to buy another property, buy a car, have more money put aside to do things. In the same situation with you, it's like you have to forward think and kind of look outside that box. And you were talking about this earlier, 2015, like when I got my first Airbnb property in Central Valley, people like my family was like, "You're a freaking idiot. Like you're going to go bankrupt. This is dumb." Rafa, you were talking about this earlier. Like people were like, "Oh, that's so stupid. Why would you do that? Like who's going to rent a place in Modesto or Turlock or wherever?" And then here we are. We're like, people are like literally asking me like, "Dude, how do I get into this market? How do I come here? Like what do I go?" So that's just that 5-6 year pendulum is completely shifted. You know what I mean? So it's crazy how that happens. But I gotta give you kudos on, looking at that market, taking that risk tolerance and having that risk tolerance to make that move. And you got in at the right time because that's when everybody was traveling. The Smokies stayed open, or Nashville, I'm pretty sure was open. There wasn't any, they didn't have any restrictions when it came there. And plus it was all outdoors anyway. And that's what people were doing during that time frame. So that's awesome, man. Alex, one more segment of our thing here, of our podcast, is we talk about learning and applying. So what's something that somebody could take away from today, from listening to us have this conversation, that they learned and apply it to what they're doing with their lives or their businesses? Can you kind of talk about something that you've talked about today, actionable step that they can do today?
Actionable steps. You need more friends. That's really what the easiest thing you can do. It's not going to cost you anything to reach out to people, go to a meetup or something like that. Because the more you meet people, Rafa, I didn't even think about arbitrage till I met you. Jesse, I didn't even think about midterm rental until I saw a YouTube video with you. And so it was like, the more you start hearing stories, the more you're gonna open your eyes to other ways of doing it. Because like I said, the standard way of doing things aren't going to work, where you buy a home and generate 100 $200 a month. It's just not going to cut it anymore. You start meeting other people doing things. Rafa, you're talking about NFTs. I'm like, my mind is blown right now. I didn't even think about that. And so just something extremely easy, just get out there and just start meeting people. Like me, I'm an introvert. I was the guy that went to real estate meetups, and I wouldn't talk. I'd be in the corner. But the thing is, once you start meeting more and more people, you start getting confidence and talking about stuff that you do. So that's just one actionable step. Just make more friends, get out there and just start talking real estate with people. People love talking real estate.
Yeah, I absolutely love that one. That's probably one of my favorites that anybody set up here. Yep. You need more friends. You need more friends in where you want to go and what you want to do that can help you get better and be better at specific things. I love that, man. I got to ask you a quick question. How often have you used your properties to go vacation yourself?
Quite a bit, a bit more than I'd like, because it's not it's money out of your pocket when you use it, but you got to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
And so I always, whenever we close on the property, we go out there. And then typically like a month later, we'll go out there again. I've been using my properties like once a month lately.
That's awesome.
But I don't know if I call it a vacation, because we will try to act like locals and go to all the attractions. And then what am I doing at 7, 8, 9 p.m.? I'm going to Home Depot, Walmart, all of those things, and then staying up till midnight. So I'm sure all of us have been there. But yeah, because I'm still working on the properties. The property could be completely perfect. I'm gonna let you know, I'm probably still gonna find something to improve it or whatever. So
yeah, that's cool. I love it.
Always be improving. That's how it goes. So Alex,
Your
where can
property.
folks find you at, man?
I'm pretty active on social media. You can find me on Instagram at the real Alex Sabio, or on Facebook if you find me Alex Sabio, or my Facebook group, Healthcare Professionals Investing in Real Estate.
That's badass. Well, there it is, folks. Alex Sabio here, teaching other investors in the healthcare world. You own what, 5 or 6 properties now, cash flowing as much as he's making a month at his W-2 job. Alex, I expect you to be out of that W-2 job here in the next year or so, but maybe even before that.
Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Well, the beauty of it, Alex, is that you get to choose if you want to stay there now or not.
Exactly.
So even if you're not out of it in a year, it's by choice.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Word of advice, don't leave your W-2 yet until you have established all your 2 years at least financials for going into your next place. Just
Right.
because I'm
That's what you're doing now?
yeah, anybody that's leaving their jobs, please make sure that you get stuff in order for 2 years before you decide to do it. Because once you leave your job, you don't have that W-2 income or however you're paying yourself. You need to make sure that you have a structure in place because it's harder to get loans. I mean, you can always do like a DSCR loan and stuff like that, but if you're buying stuff on your own conventional, it's almost impossible to do unless you have a W-2 income. So, and I think that's I didn't realize that. I just was like, oh, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. This is it. I went into work one day and was like, screw this. I'm not doing this anymore. And I left. And I didn't put things in order. I didn't think ahead. I didn't forward think enough. And yeah. So everybody listening now, don't quit your W-2s until you have everything in order.
Right, right. That's one thing that's holding me back still, because I have those 2 homes that are being built right now. And once they close, it's like, because those homes will cash flow like, 7 grand a month. So, but once I get that, then it's like, okay, I got enough.
The cool thing with you being in healthcare, dude, is that you could just take a per diem job and not technically ever be gone. You could just work like 3-4 days a month and maybe even do like a travel job if you wanted to, because RTs are they're not everywhere, and especially good ones, especially RNs or RTs or whatever it is. So you have a leg up that you don't have to technically leave. You can still just jump in whenever you want.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's awesome, Alex. Well, I appreciate you being here. It's been great, man. Good conversation.
Yeah, Alex, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.